This is Andi Purewal for Boxing Social in association with Betfred, and I'm delighted to be joined by heavyweight talent Fabio Wardley over Zoom. Fabio, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. How's things with you, mate? You all right?
Yeah, I'm all good. It's good to catch up, mate. We haven't had a chance to speak since your victory against Nick Webb. So I know obviously Ryan was there to cover the show, but we can go back now, a bit of time to reflect on what was only one round. But what would you take away from your performance, and a bit of a statement win, really?
Yeah, it was a bit of a kind of not a stop start, but just it started a bit slow and then picked up real quick. And like in my own admission, I started that fight very slow. It wasn't the best kind of starts for me. I started a bit sluggish. I didn't feel great going into it in myself in terms of as soon as the fight started, I just felt very heavy. I didn't feel too light, so I needed to kind of warm in. But credit to Nick, he didn't really give me that chance to have a round or two to kind of warm myself in and figure myself out. He really kind of piled on the pressure from early, so I just kind of had to meet that and go, you know what, we'll bite down and we'll get stuck in, and it goes where it goes, kind of thing. And unfortunately, I came out on top.
Before the fight, how was you actually anticipating it playing out? Was you expecting it to be that bit of a little bit of a firefight when it did pick up?
Yeah, I was expecting that much, at least, for Nick to come out fiery, to come out quick, to come out kind of with a lot of energy. There's been a lot of build up to this fight. I knew he trained really hard and he really wanted to come out on top, and that kind of approach worked well for him against Eric Pfeiffer as well, where he kind of jumped on early and never let Pfeiffer really get into the fight, and then eventually got him out of there. So I felt like he would come through with that same kind of confidence, that same kind of game plan, and try and obviously get the same result. But I'm a different fighter to Pfeiffer, and I expected that much to come forward out of him, but I expected myself to kind of, like I say, bounce and move, just be a bit more floating, kind of wear through the rounds a bit more. But it didn't go that way. And sometimes when the game plan goes out the window, you've got to kind of think on the fly and come up with something different and something new that might work. And unfortunately, I was able to do that.
After the fight, again, I know with Ryan, you said you'd be happy to face Nathan Gorman in your next outing. Is that the only domestic name now you'd be interested in?
Domestic, yeah. I think that's the only one left. I don't think there's anyone else left really of any worth that would be worth looking at. Like, I've won the English title. I've defended the English title. That's cool. That's me. I've still got it, obviously, at the moment, but that's me done with that. I'm not looking to defend it any more times or anything else. I want to move forward now. Like, even after the Eric Molina fight, I was kind of feeling that I was ready to step forward anyway, but there's a bit of a hold up in the whole kind of line of everything at the moment. So I was happy to have a nice defense on the record and just another good fight. Like, Nick is a good domestic level fighter. Like I say, he was coming off a good win, so it had a good bit of build to it, a good bit of rep to come with that fight. So to win that one and come out of that one quite nicely is always good to have. But there's nothing else really left in the kind of domestic scene other than Nathan himself.
Fabio, if you and Nathan were to, well, how confident rather are you that you and Nathan will meet next?
Next, who knows? It's always a difficult one to say next because you never know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going on with Nathan. I don't think he's fought for a little while, maybe 3-4 months, maybe. So maybe he'll want another outing before the end of the year, and then jump into the next year nice and fresh and strong, ready to go, which is fine by me. It's not a problem at all. I'm looking to get started again in the next year, so it wouldn't be too much of an issue. But whether it's next, I don't know. But I do think it will happen sooner or later. I don't know if it will just be next, that's all.
I mean, what are your plans for the remainder of this year? You know, a lot of shows coming up. Is there any in particular you've maybe got your eye on at all?
Not as a fighter, no. Not as a fighter or not to be fighting. The plan for the rest of the year for me is to just take some time off. I've got a few little niggles and stuff that I need to work on, a few little bits and bobs that I just need to sort out. So I think now is a kind of opportune time for me to do that. I've had a real busy year, or a busy couple of years, to be honest. So I think now is the kind of right time for me to do that. Take a little bit of downtime, just still in the gym always, still training, still taking over, but going through the process of a rehab and not putting that full camp kind of wear and tear on my body and really putting the miles on the clock. So just a bit of downtime, but still getting at it.
Some big shows coming up, Fabio. I just wanted to get your thoughts on whilst I've got you. Then obviously next weekend we see Anthony Joshua and Alexander Usyk. What's your take on their bout?
Great. I think it's a great fight. Definitely a great fight. And from what I'm seeing, it's going to be a very interesting fight as well. With you're seeing the contrast of both sides. Of you're seeing pictures and vids of Usyk, and he looks a lot bigger, a lot chunkier, a lot stronger. And then, like I say, in the contrast, you're looking at Joshua, and I'm seeing a lot slimmer Joshua. For some of the training vids he's doing a lot of cardio, he's really kind of preparing for the long haul of this fight. So I think it's going to be a real interesting kind of matchup.
The winner, not the winner of that fight, rather a couple of weeks after that, Fury-Wilder 3 takes place. How are you expecting it to play? Are you expecting more of the same from Tyson? Are you expecting anything different from Deontay?
I think Wilder will come out maybe different for a round or two. I think he'll really try and implement whatever Malik's been trying to put into him over these past few months. I think he will try because he believes in Malik. I know Malik's a good close friend of his, so he'll trust in what he says. But I think once he gets in there and he'll feel with such a style change so late in his career, such a big style change as well. I think he'll start feeling really uncomfortable in that, and after about a round or two, and I think he'll just revert back to kind of the Wilder we've seen before. But I think either way, I think Fury's still going to get him out there in similar fashion to last time.
Tyson, in the media day last week, mentioned a list of names that he'd like to face before taking a bit of a break from the sport. One of those being your manager, Dillian Whyte. What would be your thoughts, Fury versus Whyte in December?
Yeah, great. Absolutely fantastic fight. I think it'd be a great fight. But I think you've seen that from Fury a lot, that he's ever the great spokesman who he can always talk something up, or he can always say what he's about to do or what he's going to do next. And he'll feed everyone a whole story of what his plans are, of who's going to do what, and then he doesn't. Like he's great at doing that showman side of his job. He knows what he's doing. He's building up kind of interest in himself and all of that. You know what you're getting with him. He's always been the absolute showman, even from back in the days when he was running around trying to be Batman or whatever he was doing. So it's you know what you're going to get with him. But if it does happen, then fantastic, great fight, definitely a great fight and a massive one to end the year with as well.
Another fight which has been spoken about, Eddie Hearn said that Chris Arreola is certainly one of the top names to face Dillian Whyte next. But your thoughts if Dillian was to end up facing Chris?
Yeah, good fight. I think that's the right kind of fight for Dill as well. Nothing like there's no need to be like too or even like push it to the side and say it's a massive fight, because it's not a massive fight, but it's still a good fight. It doesn't take anything away from that. Arreola still operated at a high level for a long time. He's still a good, tough opponent for anyone. And I think if besides anything, it will be entertaining. Whatever happens, the other outcome, I think it will be entertaining. And mostly above all else, what else is there that you look for in boxing? You want it to be entertaining.
A final potential matchup I just wanted to get your take on is Joe Joyce and Joseph Parker. Joe Joyce calling for that fight, WBO number 1 versus number 2. If, say, them two were to meet next, how would you expect it to play out?
On a current run of form, I think I'd edge it to Joyce. I think I'd give it to Joyce. I think he'd be quite big, quite powerful, and I think he'd be a lot for Parker. I'm not saying he struggled through the Chisora fight, but he didn't breeze through it either. And not that their styles are similar, but that pure come forward aggression is something that Joyce and Chisora both have in common, and something that Parker, again, not necessarily struggled with, but didn't have the easiest times with. And someone like Joyce, who's got a bit of a bigger engine, it can just keep piling forward. He's bigger as well in kind of mass of height and longer arms, longer reach and stuff. That's a lot harder to maintain than a Chisora, who's more tight, close-knit together and wants to just keep getting in tight with you, with a Joyce who can just keep pumping you and keeping you away. So yeah, I think I'd definitely give it to Joyce in that sense, but it's not to take away from Parker, because he is a good fighter and he can always pull it out of the bag. But overall, I think I'd give it to Joyce.
And I imagine you, like everybody, Fabio, tuning but have at least seen the highlights of an unfortunate stoppage defeat for Evander Holyfield this past weekend. A sad sight indeed. Just wanted to get your take on seeing that and the stoppage.
Yeah, I think that was the right word for it. It's just sad. It's just sad to see. Like I didn't watch the fight, but I saw obviously all the clips flying around social media. Well, there's not much to watch anyway. I think it was only one round, wasn't it? So Yeah, I think it's just not nice to see, is it? I know a lot of and then you get onto Twitter and a lot of people have the same thing where they're just asking like, no one else really does this. No other sport has their icons, their idols retire and then come back and they just kind of not ruin their legacy, but you see them in such a different light that it hurts you as a fan and as a supporter of them to see them I'm seeing pictures on Instagram and Twitter and whatever of just Holyfield sprawled out on the floor, and it's not great to see, especially when you can tell he's way old and just absolutely nowhere near his prime, and but it's hard with boxing. I know that boxing leaves such a big gap in your life once you leave it, so to try and fill that with something else is, I think, something we find as boxers, I think they find hard trying to do. You see it so many times with boxers that retire and come back and retire and come back, like David Haye for the weekend, another one who retire, come back, and retire and come back, and it's hard, but it's just not something we want to see as fans, isn't it? Especially not with our actual real kind of all time idols.
Fabio, just one quick question I forgot to ask. Obviously, after on that Triller card, we saw David Haye call out Tyson Fury. I just wanted to get your take on it. Would you have any interest in seeing David return to face Tyson?
No, none whatsoever. None whatsoever. I think Fury would get rid of him in 3 or 4 rounds. There's no point. We saw Haye barely got through the Bellew fights, barely got through them. And if a Bellew not to take anything away from Bellew, but at the back end of his career, he was ready to finish him up, and Fury, who's basically banging the center of his prime right now, is gonna do some serious harm to him. But Haye knows what he's doing. He's another one with a good voice box who knows how to kind of rile up interest and get people going, and he knows the big money fight out there would be Fury, so he knows what he's doing. But I think me and pretty much 99% of the boxing community aren't interested in that fight.
Fabio, now we will leave and I'll leave you to enjoy the rest of your day. I appreciate your time and thanks for speaking to Boxing Social.
No worries, mate. Catch you in a bit.